The most dangerous place to be is outside God's timing. We often think danger is in chaos, in conflict, in storms, but the greatest danger is not in the unknown, it is in the known. That arrives too early. To be outside of God's timing is to be out of rhythm with your own destiny, like a musician playing too fast in a symphony. Even the right note becomes noise. You may be gifted, yes. You may be ready in skill, in passion, in desire. But are you ready in discipline, in obedience, in trust? Many doors open by force, but not every open door is divine, and not every opportunity is opportunity. Some are distractions in disguise, detours with glitter on the edges but emptiness at the center. A seed outside its season will die in the soil. Even the rain, if it comes too soon, will drown instead of nourish. Why? Because preparation is part of the promise, and delay is not denial. It is design. You ask, why am I waiting? But heaven is asking, are you watching? Watching how you respond when nothing changes, watching if you can worship without reward, watching if your trust lasts longer than your timeline. When you force your way ahead, you leave grace behind, and when grace isn't guiding you, pressure will break you. You weren't made to carry everything. You were made to carry what's yours when it's yours. A throne too early becomes a prison. A relationship too early becomes a wound. A platform too early becomes a trap. God's delay is not a punishment, it's protection. You see silence as absence, but silence is often the sound of construction. He is building you in places no one can see, because where you're going requires more than talent. It requires character. It requires timing. The enemy of your soul will always tempt you with shortcuts. He'll whisper, why wait when you can take? But what you take outside of timing will take you from peace. It will cost you sleep. It will cost you clarity. It will cost you purpose. There's a reason Jesus waited 30 years for a 3-year ministry. Process is not weakness. It's wisdom, and wisdom is knowing that what's not now doesn't mean not ever. Do not confuse motion with momentum. You can be busy and still be lost. You can be active and still be off course. Ask yourself, is this step obedience, or is it impatience in disguise? The blessing of God comes with ease of spirit, not ease of effort, and His timing always includes His peace. No striving, no forcing, no panic. Stay in step, not ahead, not behind, because outside of His timing you'll find open doors that lead to closed hearts. You'll find success that feels like stress. You'll find love that costs your identity. You'll find crowns that come with chains. But in His timing you'll find rest in motion. You'll find progress without pressure. You'll find relationships that sharpen, not drain. You'll find open doors that stay open, because they were opened by grace. So don't run ahead. Don't drag behind. Just walk. Walk by faith, not by force. Walk knowing. Delay is not distance, and silence is not absence, because the most dangerous place to be is not in the storm. It's in the spotlight before you're ready. It's in the promise before the process is done. It's outside God's timing, and the safest place to be is not in the comfort zone, but in center of His will, at the pace of His purpose, in the rhythm of His timing. We live in a world obsessed with calendars. We count days. We chase deadlines. We measure success by how fast it arrives. But heaven doesn't count like earth does. It doesn't rush because you're anxious. It doesn't delay because you're discouraged. God doesn't move when you're ready. He moves when your life aligns. Not just your plans, your character, your humility, your patience. Because God is not just interested in giving you something. He's interested in giving you something you can sustain. You see, a plane may be on the runway, the engines may roar, the passengers may wait, but it cannot take off until the weather is clear, until the control tower gives permission, not because the plane isn't built for flight, but because flight without alignment is a crash in disguise, and many of us, we confuse motion with permission. We assume because we can move, we should. But just because the door opens doesn't mean you're meant to walk through it. Yet, God's timing isn't just about opening the right door. It's about preparing you for what's on the other side, because a door can open, but if your heart isn't aligned, you'll walk in with ego, not discernment. You'll carry wounds instead of wisdom, and what should bless you will break you. Alignment is about internal readiness, not just external opportunity, and that's where the test lies. Because you can fake readiness to others, you can look polished, postured, professional, but heaven sees beyond the surface. It checks motives. It checks the why behind the what. That's why some things delay, not to frustrate you, but to free you. Free you from thinking a moment defines your identity. Free you from needing affirmation before you find alignment. When your spirit is right, when your focus is clear, when your trust no longer depends on what you see, then the timing becomes divine because the inside matches the outside. That's when God moves, not because you demanded it, but because you're finally in sync. We think the danger is in waiting, but the real danger is in moving misaligned. It's marrying before you're healed. It's leading before you've served. It's building before you've surrendered, because when you chase timing without alignment, you chase applause without depth. You chase success without foundation, and when the storm comes, you'll crumble, not because you lacked strength, but because you lacked structure. Even nature teaches us this. A fruit out of season may look ripe, but bite into it, and it's bitter, unfinished, rushed. So too is purpose without process. It's beautiful on the outside, but broken on the inside. You cannot microwave destiny. You cannot skip alignment and still carry assignment. God will not send you where your character cannot keep you, because the goal is not speed, the goal is stewardship. Can you handle what you've asked for? Can you protect it without pride? Can you grow it without compromise? Timing isn't just the when, it's the why and how. It's knowing that peace is a better compass than pressure, that the green light doesn't just appear at aligns when your heart stops trying to control the outcome. Some of the most painful delays are actually precise alignments. You thought it was punishment, but it was God saying, "You're not late." You're learning to wait well, learning to prepare without proof, learning to trust when your timeline is empty but your spirit is full. And the moment your inner life begins to mirror what you've been praying for, that's when God opens the door, not just to enter, but to thrive. Because in His will, timing isn't random, it's relational, it's connected to your growth, your healing, your obedience. So don't ask, when will it happen? Ask instead, what still needs to align? Because the most dangerous place to be is not just outside of timing, it's outside of alignment with the one who controls it. And until your spirit aligns with His will, you're not waiting on a moment. You're waiting on yourself. You aligned your heart. You surrendered your timing. You let go of force. But still the silence continues. You obeyed, you prepared, and yet the door remains shut. This is where most people walk away, not because they lack faith, but because they misread the delay. Delay feels like rejection, but it is not rejection. It is refinement. You are not being overlooked. You are being overhauled. When God delays, it's never to deprive you, it's to develop you. Because what's ahead of you requires more than vision, it requires depth. It requires precision. It requires a version of you that hasn't been carved out yet. Delay is not a closed door. It's a mirror. It shows you what's not ready. It reveals the residue of pride you didn't know was hiding. It exposes the fear dressed up as ambition. And if you can't sit still in delay, you'll never stand firm in destiny. He's not slow. He's strategic. You see inactivity. He sees insulation. Not everything planted must sprout immediately. Some seeds remain buried, not because they're dead, but because they're deepening. Roots are growing while you see nothing. Depth is forming while you feel forgotten. Because what's built in public will collapse without private weight. God is not just building the thing, He's building you for the thing. You thought the waiting season was a punishment, but it's actually your protection. You are being hidden not because you're not called, but because you're being cured, cured from rushing, cured from comparison, cured from performing, delayed. So you don't damage what's coming, delayed. So you don't depend on applause, delayed. So your gift doesn't outrun your grace. Refinement happens in silence, not in stages, not in spotlights, not in timelines. God puts you in rooms where no one sees you so he can reveal parts of you that would ruin. Next level, your silence is not empty, it's sacred. He's showing you what needs to go. He's stripping away the false strength. He's sanding off the roughness. He's not just preparing the blessing, he's preparing the blesser. Because if you get it too soon, you'll crush under the weight of your own expectations. A diamond is not formed in the light. It's formed in pressure, heat, time. So why do you think your purpose should come quickly, comfortably, casually? No great calling ever came without delay. Joseph had the dream, but then came the pit. Then came the prison. Before the palace ever appeared, his spirit had to be refined. And some of us, we love the dream but fight the delay, not realizing the dream would destroy us if delay didn't develop us. You think it's not happening, but what if the wait is the happening? What if the waiting room isn't a pause but a classroom? What if every no is making your yes cleaner? What if every closed door is sanding off the ego that would have poisoned your breakthrough? Delay doesn't mean God changed his mind. It means he's strengthening yours. Because the most dangerous thing he could do is give you what you want before you become who you need to be. There is purpose in this stretch. There is oil in this silence. There is wisdom in this stillness. And when refinement is done, when the fire finishes its work, you won't just walk into the promise. You'll carry the weight of it, without bending, without breaking. So no, this is not a denial. This is a divine delay, a sacred stillness, an invisible transformation, because what's ahead of you will require every lesson you are learning now in the dark. You are not behind, you are becoming. You aligned your heart. You embraced the delay. You understood that silence is not absence, it's transformation. But now comes the most deceptive part of the process, premature access. Not every open door is divine. Some are distractions disguised as destiny. Some are shortcuts sent to sabotage, not by God but by your own impatience. You prayed for the promise, but the promise has a weight, a pace, a process, and if you access it too soon before refinement is complete, it won't elevate you. It will expose you. What comes early costs deeply, because anything born out of timing lacks the protection of grace. God's gifts are always good, but they're good in his time, not just in your desire. A blessing given too early can feel like a burden. It won't fill you. It'll fracture you. Think of a child handed a sharp sword. The sword isn't evil, but in untrained hands it becomes dangerous. So does a platform handed to an insecure heart. So does influence handed to a bitter spirit. So does wealth given to a mind still ruled by fear. You may be gifted, you may be anointed, but gifting without maturity is like fire in dry grass. It spreads fast, but it burns everything in its path. This is why God withholds what looks ready, because he's still preparing what you can't see. You see the stage. He sees the cracks in your foundation. You see the opportunity. He sees the obsession for validation. And if he gives it now, it won't grow you. It'll grind you, not because the gift is wrong, but because your heart isn't ready to carry it. You think you're ready, but readiness isn't about eagerness. It's about endurance. Can you handle the critics? Can you lead without applause? Can you obey without outcome? Premature access rushes all of that. It gives you the crown before the cross, the visibility before the integrity, the influence before the obedience. And what comes before obedience will never be sustained by grace. There's a reason the prodigal son left early. He wanted access, not authority. He wanted freedom, but not formation. And when he got what he asked for too soon, it destroyed him. Not because the inheritance was wrong, but because the timing was. Early access brings early collapse. You move into rooms your character wasn't shaped to hold. You wear titles your humility hasn't caught up to. And it all looks good on the outside, until pressure comes, until temptation knocks, until your soul breaks under the weight of what your spirit never trained for. God is not punishing you by making you wait. He is protecting you from premature promotion, from false platforms, from becoming a public success and a private wreck. You must understand, God is not building a moment, he is building a life that lasts, a faith that Holds a calling that carries people, not just impresses them, so let him finish the work, let him stretch the silence, let him test your motives, because when the door opens in his time you won't need to force it, you won't need to fake it, you'll simply fit. Premature access is tempting, but divine timing is timeless. It doesn't need to be rushed because what is truly yours will never arrive too late. You don't want what's early, you want what's right, right for your heart, right for your soul, right for your purpose, and what's right comes after the refinement, not before. Let others rush, let others take shortcuts, you stay hidden, stay planted, stay refined, because what you gain too early might shine quickly, but it won't survive the weight of destiny. You thought you were ready, you felt refined, you prayed, fasted, waited, and then nothing, the silence didn't end. The delay stretched longer, the door didn't swing open, and now your heart shifts, not to faith but to frustration, not to trust but to desperation. Desperation doesn't sound evil, it sounds honest, it sounds hungry, it sounds passionate, but here's the danger. Desperation speaks louder than discernment, it clouds judgment, it pushes you to act out of emotion instead of obedience. You want movement, so you manufacture it. You want confirmation, so you cling to any voice that agrees with your craving. Desperation lowers your standards and raises your volume. It makes noise, but not progress, and in your rush to escape the silence, you miss the revelation inside it. Because revelation doesn't shout, it whispers, it waits. It looks for the still heart, a heart not panicking, a heart not bargaining, a heart that isn't trying to manipulate God's hand. But desperation tries to rush God, it trades patience for pressure, it replaces surrender with strategy. You start knocking on doors he never sent you to. You start calling things divine that are just detours dressed up as answers. When you're desperate, you no longer ask, "Is this from God?" You only ask, "Will this get me out of the wait?" But a rushed answer is rarely a right one. A fast decision is rarely a faithful one, because desperation has no interest in depth, only escape. And when you chase escape over encounter, you lose revelation. You forfeit the very wisdom the delay was designed to teach you. It's in the waiting room where God reveals his heart, not when you're striving, but when you're still, still enough to see what's beneath your motives, still enough to recognize where fear has disguised itself as faith, still enough to hear the instruction that only comes when noise is no longer your guide. Revelation doesn't come when you're demanding, it comes when you're listening, but desperation screams, "I can't take this anymore," while revelation whispers, "This is shaping you." Desperation makes you grab whatever's closest. Revelation teaches you to hold out for what's true. One leads to compromise, other leads to clarity. Desperate hearts settle for Ishmael when God promised Isaac. They settle for survival when God designed significance. You think God is being cruel in the delay, but he's actually being kind. He's keeping you from building your future on panic, because what's built on panic will crumble under pressure. Desperation can't produce legacy. It can only produce noise, and noise may impress people, but it will never sustain purpose. You weren't created to move out of fear. You were created to move out of faith. Faith waits, faith listens. Faith doesn't grab what's easy, holds on until what's true arrives. And if God is making you wait longer, it's not because he's punishing you. It's because he's protecting the revelation that can only be received when you stop trying to force it. You see, revelation is not just information, it's transformation. It changes how you see, how you walk, how you decide, and once you have revelation, you no longer move in circles. You no longer beg for crumbs. You no longer take every open door as divine. You move with precision. You walk with peace. You carry a knowing that doesn't need confirmation from crowds. Desperation wants relief. Revelation brings alignment. And when you're aligned, you can wait without worry. You can pause without panic. You can stand still and still be in purpose. Because God doesn't reveal his will to those who rush. He reveals it to those who rest. And when revelation comes, it doesn't just show you the next step. It shows you how to take it without losing your soul. So if you feel the pressure to act now, pause, because revelation is waiting. On the other side of desperation's silence, you've fought the desperation, you've silenced the panic, you've chosen to wait for revelation, not run after relief. But now comes the next test, the temptation to settle, to accept something good just because it's available. And here is the truth few admit. Not every good thing is a God thing. Some things look like answers, but arrive too early. Some things feel like blessings, but carry burdens you're not built to carry. Outside God's timing, even a gift can become a weight. You thought that relationship was the reward, but it came before healing, so it added pressure instead of peace. You thought that job was the breakthrough, but it came before character, so it fed your pride instead of your purpose. You thought that platform was the promise, but it came before spiritual depth, so it drained you faster than it developed you. When something comes before its time, it doesn't lift you, it loads you. You weren't made to carry everything. You were made to carry what's yours. When it's ready for you, and when you're ready for it. Premature gifts require constant maintenance, constant explaining, constant performing, because they didn't come with peace, they came with pressure, and anything that comes with pressure to prove was likely not sent by God. God doesn't give blessings that burn you out. He doesn't open doors that you have to force open every morning. He gives rest with movement, clarity with calling, grace with growth. But when you rush, you forfeit the grace and inherit the grind, and the grind might look productive, but deep down it's unsustainable. Because what comes from striving will always require striving to keep. That's how good things become burdens, not because they're evil, but because they weren't meant for now. You start to carry responsibilities that your soul can't stretch for. You start to commit to roles that your maturity hasn't grown into. You may survive it for a season, but eventually it wears you down. You get tired, not just in body but in spirit, because your soul knows this wasn't sent. It was seized. You didn't receive it. You grabbed it, and now instead of thriving, you're managing, maintaining, masking. You post the photo, you smile in the room, but behind it you're carrying something that was supposed to come later. The right thing at the wrong time is still the wrong weight. It's like eating fruit before it's ripe. It might look good, but it's sour, hard, difficult to digest. God's timing ripens the fruit. It softens the landing. It matches your capacity to the assignment. When He gives it, you won't need to pretend. You won't need to keep proving why you deserve it. You'll just walk in it, with peace, with confidence, with stamina. Because He didn't just give it, He prepared you to carry it. But when you move outside His timing, you end up carrying things you were never called to bear. You say yes too soon. You build without foundation. You speak before you've listened, and suddenly what looked like favor feels like fatigue. Not because you're weak, but because you're out of rhythm. You're trying to run a race with shoes that don't fit yet. You're trying to hold a calling that's still being formed inside you. Let Him finish the forming. Let Him fit the shoes to your stride. Let Him pace your purpose, because when it comes at the right time, you won't collapse under it. You'll carry it with joy. God's gifts don't come to crush, they come to complete. So if it feels heavy, not just because it's stretching you, but because it's suffocating you, pause. It may be good, but is it God? It may be beautiful, but is it timely? Don't let the hunger for progress blind you. The cost of premature pressure: wait for the release, wait for the alignment, wait for the grace that carries the weight without making it a burden. Because outside of God's timing, even good things can break you.